Another edition of the Fantasy Authority podcast. It's been a fun couple of days there, Cody, since we've last met. But we are back again with another edition of the Fantasy Authority podcast. I am your host for the second time in a row. One more, and I think they call that a streak. And
it's a turkey, right?
Yeah, or as they say in Major League Baseball, right? We've won one, we win tomorrow. That's two. Win after that, that's three. That's what they call a winning streak. Anyways, you see, I threw myself off with that. Now, I had it all planned, and I thought it was all going to be great. And now here we are. But anyways, yes, we are back again with another edition of the Fantasy Authority podcast. Again, I'm your host, Kevin.
Again.
Yep, and I'm joined by Cody Kutzer. You can find him on Twitter at @CKutzerFF. Nailed that again, right?
You got it, man. You're one away from a streak.
Yep, here we go. Let's keep it going. But yes, we are back again. This week I think we have some exciting stuff to talk about. We've already knocked out the waivers. Now we move on. We are, depending on when you're listening to this. Well, actually, you'll be listening to this on Friday unless you watch it live. So Thursday night will have already happened. But so here we are, and it's been a interesting week so far, right? Like the NFL never fails. There's no off day with the NFL, with the amount of injuries we've had, and more Antonio Brown drama.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it never ends, right? I mean, if you look at what's going on around the league so far. Let's just start with the news, I guess. Hit up some news here, and we got the news today that the Chargers are once again always on Madden curse because the Hunter Henry came out that bare minimum that he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with some sort of a knee fracture. That doesn't sound good. Do you have any interest in Virgil Green at all?
Hopefully, if you drafted Hunter Henry, there's a better option out there on waivers. He always seems to be somebody that we want him to be something more than he is. A couple years ago, whenever Henry was out, I think he and Antonio Gates split time, and I don't think he was really much for fantasy purposes. But now, obviously, Antonio Gates is out of the picture. But I mean, hopefully, you have somebody that's a little more dependable as that low in the rankings of tight end can go. Are you just leaving him alone, or what are you doing with him?
Yeah, I want no part of it, especially this early in the year. There's going to be so many options this week. This week we had the Darren Wallers of the world, who I was pretty high on heading into the season. Converted wide receiver into tight end. I'm mad at myself that I helped my brother out in my own league and our keeper league that we have, and I told him to pick him up one. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why do I do that? Why do I help people all the time? I'm just an enabler.
It's a gift and a curse.
I know it is. I'm just so good at this. But yeah, he goes out and dominates 7 catches, 70 yards. But yeah, I just think there's better options out there. I don't think you really need to go there. But my goodness, the Chargers just can never. I mean, they have like the worst training staff ever, right? Strength and conditioning, something. They need to figure this out.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like what the NFL should do, they should just find a new Charger to put on the cover of Madden every year. Yeah, I mean, leave the other teams alone, leave the other superstars alone. Just have it be somebody else from the Chargers on the cover of Madden, since they're already cursed. Just get it out of the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. It is absolutely horrible. So, yeah. I mean, I think now that at the rest of the Charge situation, I mean, Keenan Allen is like stone cold lock, right? Moving forward, because you also have Mike Williams who's dealing with a knee injury. So. That was the next bit of news that head coach Anthony Lynn said he's concerned about Mike Williams' knee and what happens. And so where do you think the targets go from Keenan Allen to Austin Eckler? Like, I think Keenan is in for a huge I mean, could we see like Jamison Crowder level targets here? I mean, where Jamison Crowder last week got 41% of the target share. I mean, I don't think it's going to get that high, but right now you're looking at Travis Benjamin as the number, as probably the slot, deep threat. And then you have Dontrell Inman, who's familiar with the team, as probably the number 3 wide receiver if Mike Williams can't go. So, I mean, Austin Eckler is in a smash spot this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was looking at the Chargers depth chart because I was like, who's behind those guys? And as of right now, the only one that they have on the team's official website behind Mike Williams is Jeremy Davis. So, I mean, it's Keenan, it's Eckler, and then, I don't know. Travis Benjamin seems like he's been there for a while. He never does anything. I mean, I don't know. Does maybe they run a couple more 2 RB sets? You know what I mean? Some more 21, 22 personnel. Maybe Justin Jackson has to get involved a little bit more. Like I don't know what they do at this point. I mean, I'm not adding those guys unless I'm in like some kind of like crazy, super deep, like 16 team league. You know what I mean? Something like that, or maybe like a 14 team league where you're starting 9 guys, 10 guys. You know what I mean? Something like that. There's just. I was, like I said, when I saw the news come out, I was like, who do they even have? I know last year, Dylan Cantrell, let's say he was out of like Texas Tech or something, I believe. I thought I'd see him listed. He was not. I'm not sure if he's on the practice squad right now. Maybe he gets called up. I know last year in training camp, he was getting some pub, getting some hype, and then I think he must have had like an ACL or something. He was out for the year. But I mean, where do you see this going?
Well, I think we still need to wait and see what happens with Mike Williams. I mean, there's a chance he plays this week, but even if he doesn't, I think they have enough there to get by at least for 1 week. If Mike Williams was able to actually miss, this week. So, I mean, I don't think we're at like DEFCON level here with them. If they do, I think they'll have to go out and add a wide receiver through, whether it's through free agency or trading for, something. But I don't think we're there yet with this team. But I definitely think that at least, for now, you can expect big things out of Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, who I believe take on the Lions this week, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not the end of the world yet. But right now, I think that it's definitely something worth monitoring. And more injury news. You have Joe Mixon is considered day to day. He sat out, I believe, the second half of that Seahawks game. Now so right now, I think he plays this week. I have him ranked in my rankings right now, like as he's going to play. I think I have him as RB12. I don't think he's going to miss any time. And this, if he does, then I think that makes Gio Bernard an absolute. I mean, he has high end wide receiver, or high end RB2 upside, in my opinion. If Joe Mixon were to be out, you'd be looking at Gio Bernard, and I think Trayvon Williams, who is kind of a DFS preseason, sleeper there. So, I think he plays, but if he doesn't, then Gio Bernard easily an RB2, and then I think that if you wanted to get real cute, which now is not the time, it's week 2, right? Like if this was like, week 9 and, we had a bunch of bye weeks this week. It's one of those crazy, like 16 or 6 team bye weeks or something like that. Maybe you go super deep like that, but I don't think we're at a point now to do that.
Right. So if, let's say Mixon does not practice like much at all, maybe he only gets in, some limited work, some stuff off to the side with the trainers, but he is active on Sunday. Are you going to throw him in your lineups if you have him anywhere? Or are you just not going to mess with that?
It would depend on what I had, right? Like it would depend on how my bench looked. If I had, I don't know, like say you had Matt Breida or something like that stashed away on your bench, maybe you consider it. But right now, I don't think you need to. I think he's somebody that I don't feel like they would put him out there if he wasn't 100% ready to go, and you have enough time to make that decision. So it's certainly something to monitor. I mean, he was nicked up last year as well, and then I think Gio, I think he missed a game or two, something like that last year. He missed a few weeks. So like I said, and it was something we talked about over the offseason, especially in the draft season, was Gio Bernard was criminally undervalued.
He was free.
Yeah, I mean, he was free everywhere. And like they said, I mean, the Bengals, this is one of those situations where like you should be monitoring the situation because they had said that they planned on, which is the reason why they gave him a pretty decent sized contract extension. What was it, 2 years, 11 million? That's a lot for a running back, especially a backup running back. And they said they want to get him more involved and they want him to get, 8 to 12 touches a game. Just nobody listened. And I still think even if even when Joe Mixon is healthy and is the lead back, I still think Gio Bernard has weekly flex appeal once bye weeks get going.
Yeah, for sure. Especially this week as well. I think he's squarely in the flex and even possibly RB2 conversation. Like there's no reason for them to they're as much as they surprised Seattle this past week, there's no reason for them to rush Joe Mixon, especially the second week of the season. So if he's, even if he's 85% healthy, pretty much good to go, I think this is a week where we could see Gio out touching Mixon if Mixon is indeed active.
Yeah, I agree. So, last but not least, Quincy Enunwa has been placed on the IR with a neck injury. Pour one out for the homie. That dude just can never stay healthy. He was somebody I really liked, a few years ago that I felt like he really had some upside, but just never. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to, finish out a whole entire year, 100% healthy. They actually just acquired Demaryius Thomas. This is the first time that the Patriots have traded with the Jets since I think they said 2002. I think it was.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's been a really long time since the last time, and a lot of people predicted that with them trading Demaryius Thomas, does this mean that they are bringing back Rob Gronkowski, and that's the role that he's not the role, but that's the roster spot. I don't know. There's been a lot of smoke and fire or smoke behind that one. I think Gronk ends up coming back some point this year. It may not be to like week 12, week 13, something like that, but I do think there's a situation where Gronk comes back. But I'm not going out and trying to land Demaryius Thomas, anywhere. If he's owned in your leagues, cool. But like he's not somebody that I like just want to run out and grab. The Jets still have Jamison Crowder. They still have Robbie Anderson. Well, I will say Robbie Anderson is dealing with I think a calf injury, but still, like I just can't see Demaryius Thomas like carving out some sort of significant role here.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But they did need that bigger body receiver, especially until Herndon gets back. Maybe once Herndon's back, that kind of makes Demaryius just kind of out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I love Enunwa. I wish he could put something together. But I think it's his second neck injury, right? This landed him on the IR. Like, dude, he can't be messing around with something like that. He just got extended over the off season as well. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. But as far as Gronk, like, dude, have you seen like pictures of him recently? Like, he's gonna need to wait until week 12 so he can throw those 40 pounds that he lost back on his body.
Yeah, I remember those pictures earlier in the offseason with him that, I mean, he looked like he'd lost like 100 pounds. Like he was super, super light. He says he only lost like 20 or 30 pounds. But I'm like, no way, dude.
No way.
Yeah, he lost quite a bit. But yeah, he's definitely going to have to pack on some pounds to be able to get back to. But he says he would need a month to get back to where he needs to be. I don't know. People are saying, well, Russia. I've seen people today talk about going and picking him up. No, fuck that. I mean, you have no idea when he's going to be back, right? I mean, if he didn't come back to week 12, why are you holding on to this guy? And people forget too with Gronk, like he wasn't good last year. You know what I mean? Like for fantasy purposes, but he just wasn't good. And so like people are going to want to just because of his name. And I guess the tight end position is such a dumpster fire, so maybe it makes it not as bad. Or as terrible of a pickup. But for me, like I just don't think there's any need to do that. So like it doesn't really move the meter for me. Like it's more of a real football type of move than it is something that I would just get overly excited about in fantasy.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that if you went out and I saw him added everywhere in like all of my leagues. That's going to be one of those ones like 2-3 weeks from now, once bye weeks and more injury starts setting in, you're going to look at that and just be like, fuck, why did I burn that roster spot for the past 4 weeks? If like you spend any fab on them, like that's like I said, I kept seeing that over all my leagues, and I didn't really get that one either.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. So, it just, and again, like people just forget, like he wasn't good last year. So, I don't know. Anyways, I think we can move on from that. It's enough Rob Gronkowski talk for one day. But, anyways, just before we jump into the meat and the potatoes, as they say, of the podcast, just be sure to click that like button, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. This will be put up on YouTube later this week. We'll probably break it down by segment. So it's a little bit easier to digest. Especially on YouTube. Ain't nobody got time to watch 45 minutes, hour-long video. On YouTube.
No.
So just make sure you hit that like and subscribe for us. I really appreciate it. We're trying to really grow this thing up, take it to the next level. Tell my parents I made it. And also on if you're listening to this on the podcast, definitely check us out. Subscribe on there, leave us a rate and a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. But anyways, enough of that. Let's go ahead and let's jump into the reason why people are here, and let's talk about the week 2 rankings. So we get those up there on the screen. So let's just jump into it. We'll start a quarterback position this week. This is me and Cody's week 2 rankings. Some of them are pretty standard. Pat Mahomes, against Oakland, that's definitely a lock for number 1.
Yep.
Carson Wentz at 2, going against Atlanta, consistent. I have him at 4, you have him at 3. Then this is our first real big, okay, what happened here? And that's Lamar Jackson. So, one, Cody, am I overvaluing him because of the monster performance he just put up, against the lowly Miami Dolphins? Or are you just not ready to buy
in? Dude, that's just one of those ones where, can he be... forget the 5 touchdowns. That's if he might not ever do that in his career again. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things where is he going to be able to be as efficient as he was? He had more touchdown passes than he had incompletions last week. So that's just one of I've been loving Lamar. I picked him up as he was one of my big late round quarterback targets. There's just some other guys I like in spots a little bit more than his. I don't think so. I have him at 7, and you have him at 2. That's not necessarily a reflection on that. I don't think he can't finish higher than what he is right now. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes. Let's not overreact. There's no way he's going to be that efficient again. Although he has a great matchup against Arizona. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, all right, let me see this one more time, and then he's probably going to end up finding himself in my top 5 probably on a weekly basis.
So for me, a lot of it is matchup related, right? Arizona, I mean, they just made Matt Stafford look like Matt Stafford again. Matt Stafford looked awful last year, and Matt Stafford comes out and balls and throws 385 and 3 touchdowns against them last week. So for me, I just think that I'm not really a big fan of Arizona's defense. I think that Lamar Jackson's always going to have a high floor because of his ability to be able to get out of the pocket and use his legs. I mean, he's someone who legit could have 1,000 yards rushing this year on the ground. And then, like I said, I think just the matchup. I think a lot of people have really undervalued him as a passer. A lot of people saw him last year and want to give him the benefit of doubt that he could progress. I'm not ready to say that he's corrected everything, and he has gotten to the point where you just feel comfortable in as a passer. I don't think he's going to throw for 30 touchdowns this year. I don't think that's happening. He's not throwing for 4,000 yards. I don't think that's going to be the case. But what he does is now, he can actually just throw the ball, because last year he never threw the ball, right? It was a rare day in hell. That would happen. And so now, we saw all these huge explosive plays. We saw Hollywood Brown go off. We saw Mark Andrews go off. And like I think there's at least some excitement here that if he can at least be even a mediocre thrower, at least from fantasy perspective, that I think that like it's hard not to have him in your top 5, almost every week because of that, because of his rushing floor, that he can bail you out. Like he could have a really bad week where he throws, let's say, 200 yards passing and one passing touchdown, but he can easily get you that 100 yards rushing and just makes up for the whole thing. So that's why for me, like just matchup based, everything else that goes into it, like it was hard for me not to. There's not a much better matchup going against Arizona.
Yeah, like you're not going to get me to disagree with you too much here. Like I said, it's just that just set the bar really high, and there are just some other matchups I like a little bit better.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So let's move forward. Let's keep moving. Let's move on to Deshaun Watson. I think that's another interesting. That's one that we kind of have quite a bit of difference. I have Deshaun Watson at number 3. You have Deshaun Watson at number 11. For me, the reason I have him so high is just because I think that their defense is bad. Now again, one could counter argue and say, well, we kind of talked about Gardner Minshew last week or on the waiver show, but he at least appeared competent, right? Like the Chiefs' defense is not good at all, and but he was still able to move the ball. Like a lot of times you see rookies come in, especially like what was he, a 6th-round pick or something like that, when it's come in and just shit the bed. Like he at least showed some signs of do that. So I feel like if the Jaguars, if the Jaguars can keep this close, then Deshaun Watson's gonna have to throw the ball. The Texans do not have a good defense. Like they pretty much wrecked that with the trades they made with moving Jadeveon Clowney. Their secondary is awful. They've already cut. Like, if you want to know how not to run a franchise, just look and see what the Houston Texans are doing right now. They have basically they're paying Jadeveon Clowney $7 million to not be there. They're paying Aaron Colvin, who they just cut, $7 million to go play for another team, because I can guarantee you another team is going to pick him up. Yeah. And I mean, they have 0 firsts over the next 2 years. Like it's just insane of what they're doing here. And regardless, that doesn't matter. Let's talk about, we're talking about this week. So I think Deshaun Watson again is going to have to throw the ball. Again, another guy who that he's another player that can pick up a lot of yardage on the ground. They really will boost his ceiling and his floor every single week. I wasn't overly impressed with the Jaguars defense last week. The Chiefs really just pretty much had their way with them the entire game, and with all the added weapons that the Houston Texans have, they're not that far off of where the Chiefs are at in terms of their overall offense. I mean, they don't have the tight end, but they have DeAndre Hopkins, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller. Like, Kiki Kutsi sounds like he came back this week from practice. If he's able to get in, like, there's a lot to like here in this offense with Duke Johnson as well. So it's hard for me to see him really fail in this matchup, especially at home. So it's going to be inside the dome. So I just think everything aligns for them to really lay the hammer on the Jaguars this week.
Yeah, they absolutely could. I'm also we were talking about this pre-show a little bit. I might be overreacting, but dude, Deshaun Watson literally might die on the field. Like that offensive line is horrid, and the Jags defense might not be the defense of old, and it's definitely not. But their front seven is still extremely good. They still like to be aggressive. I think D-Hop's still going to get his against Ramsey, but this could be one where maybe they jump out into a lead, and I don't think Bill O'Brien likes to be aggressive. I think he would like to be more conservative, and especially if they are playing with a lead. And I don't even mean like a 14, 17-point lead, anything like that. If they're up 7 points, 10 points, I think we're going to see Bill O'Brien take his foot off the gas, and he's going to turn that into, and Carlos Hyde, like what the hell was that? But Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson run the ball a lot. And again, the same thing I said for Lamar. There are just some other matchups I like better and I feel more confident in. Might be a slight overreaction on my part, but I still wouldn't bump Deshaun up more than maybe 3 spots, something like that. Like
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien is about to Chip Kelly himself. He's going to try and, make all these moves, be the GM. Then they're going to be left in a shit situation, and he's going to be out of a job.
Yeah, they've done all of this, right? But they haven't even paid Deshaun Watson yet. Like, that's coming in the next year or two, right? Like, depending on how they decide to work it. I mean, him and Pat Mahomes are under the same time frame, obviously. So yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know, like, it better work. They better move out, make it past the first round of the playoffs this year, because if not, like, Bill O'Brien, old Bob is out the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Right now, from there, we have Jared Goff at 8. I have him at 10. You have him at 6. Not a huge difference. I have Matt Ryan at 9. You have him at 8. Aaron Rodgers, I have him at 6, and you have him at 12. That's our next, kind of biggest gap and where we have everybody. I'm higher on Aaron Rodgers, mainly because he's at home. That's my biggest difference here, and my biggest takeaway. That Vikings defense is not the same on the road as they are at home. And so I feel like that this is kind of a nice bounce back spot for Rodgers this week. And I think this is one, especially where I think we're going to have to see. I think this has shootout potential a little bit here. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have to actually throw the ball this week. I mean, after his 10 attempts that he threw last week, and that was something else. You don't see that in this. I think most people are like, is he hurt? Is my ESPN app broken? What is going on here? You don't 10 tips in a game, and the guy played the entire time. So I think that's going to change dramatically. So I just think Aaron Rodgers is in a much better spot, especially at home. And I think that, I think you can start him this week confidently, especially at home. So why is he a border QB1 for you this week?
Just a matchup, man. In terms of talent, like, Minnesota's up there with Chicago. I don't think that spot's much better for him. He is at home, so he does get that, the home favorite bump. But dude, I'm still not sold on the floor. Something we were talking about maybe like 2 or 3 shows ago. I think they want to run the ball a little bit more. I think they want to get Aaron Jones involved. I know that makes you happy. It's just a matchup. That's strictly all it is. I'm just not sold on the floor and what he's trying to do until we see that come through. Like, this is one of those ones, just like Deshaun and D-Hop. Devontae Adams is still going to get his, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to buoy Aaron Rodgers much higher than where I have him right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from with it and everything. It's just, I don't know. For me, with them being in Lambeau this week, it's just hard for me to really, to really knock them down all that much. So,
Right.
Past that, I guess to round out the old top 12, we have Russell. I have Russell Wilson at 11. You have him at 9, and then Drew Brees as it comes in at 12. I have him at 13. You have him at 10. I have Baker Mayfield at 12. I think that's pretty much as our QB1s. Who is one late round quarterback, or not late round, but quarterback that you don't have ranked inside the top 12 that you think has sneaky upside this week?
Ooh, let's go Josh Allen. Again, playing matchups here. The Giants are certified terrible and certified hot trash, and all it takes is a couple bombs from Josh Allen to my boy Smokey Brown and a couple of rushes. I think we'll see some more running from Josh Allen. But he's somebody I could see possibly sneak up into the QB1 conversation at week's end. Is there anybody you like that's deeper like that you think has QB1 potential?
Yes, 100% Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Going against the Chiefs, with it being at Oakland, I think that is a bonus and a net positive for him this week in his outlook. Last week, the Monday night game against the Broncos, they didn't really have to throw the ball. They kind of controlled that game on the ground a little bit. Derek Carr still had 256 yards, if I'm not mistaken. I believe a touchdown. But as far as Derek Carr, but this week, you have Pat Mahomes coming to the town. Yes, they don't have Tyreek Hill, but that offense is still. It's not all that. It's not a huge downgrade to lose Tyreek Hill. They still have Sammy Watkins, who exploded for 197 and 3 scores. They still
Yes,
have
he did.
Yes. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And finally happened. And so, there's just not enough there for me to really be all that concerned with. And for the Chiefs offense, so they can put up 40 points at will. And for me, so Derek Carr, they're going to have to keep up. And I think Derek Carr has been much better against Kansas City at home than he has on the road. Kansas City's defense has always been much better at home than they've been on the road, at least for the last couple of seasons. And I don't think this year is going to be any different. So, I think Derek Carr really is very sneaky and somebody who very well, I've thought about picking him up in my own leagues. The one, where I have the nut worst Jameis Winston this week going against Carolina. I've thought about picking up Derek Carr and starting him over Jameis Winston this week, especially on a quick turnaround Thursday night matchup. That just seems like it could go sideways real quick. So I do like Derek Carr quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that call. That's a good call. And then also the Raiders got hit with the injury bug, and their rookie that they took at safety, Abrams, he's out for the year now. So not that the KC offense needed any help against that defense, but that's a pretty big blow for them.
For sure. So why don't we go ahead and let's just move on over to running back and move on. So right now for us, we both have Christian McCaffrey at 1. Surprise, surprise. We have Ezekiel Elliott at 2. You have him at 3. I have Kamara at 4. You have him at 2. Saquon, I have him at 3. You have him at 4. David Johnson, I have at 7. You have at 5. Nick Chubb, 5 and 8. Le'Veon Bell, at 7. The first one comes with Todd Gurley going against New Orleans at home. I have him at 11. You have him at 6. I do think there's some cause for concern here in this backfield a little bit. He was fine. I think he had 14 carries for 97 yards, but I think him getting sniped on the goal line is a little disconcerting. And I do think, surprise, Malcolm Brown's the number 2 running back. It's not, it's not Henderson. So
weird.
Throw that out there. Darrell Henderson truthers.
Weird.
Yes, have probably been a little upset there on that one that took him in the 7th and 8th round. But anyways, this New Orleans defense is tough, right? But it is at home for the Rams, so I think that is a positive. But I still have him as an RB1. But why are you so high on Todd Gurley?
I think we saw in the second half is whenever Todd Gurley started to look a little better and pad those stats a little bit. In this kind of in this kind of environment, this kind of matchup, the New Orleans defensive line is obviously very good with Cam Jordan in there, but their linebackers are definitely beatable. All it takes is one screen pass. I mean, dude, we saw it Carlos Hyde and look good against this defense. I would say that the Rams have a better line. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that compared to the Texans. So all it takes is one. His speed hasn't been in question. He got 15, 16 touches. I know Malcolm Brown had just as many, but if he can spring a screen pass or something like that, hopefully he gets more involved in from the 10 and in. You know what I mean? Again, that could just be one touch that he needs, and this should be a shootout game. So he's going to have the potential is going to be there for him to score. Is it just Malcolm Brown and where he's getting the touches that has you with Gurley down at 11?
I definitely think there's some concern there, and I don't think Malcolm Brown's going away. And I think Malcolm Brown
no, not at all.
He certainly has the. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow this gets into a situation where Brown is more of the goal line back and, the short yardage back. And then Todd Gurley, starts to get, and then this starts to become more of a thing. And I think it's going to become, there's going to be a lot of frustrated fantasy owners that Malcolm Brown ends up with like 6 or 7 touchdowns this year. And I'm just a little bit lower on him. And I do think that the matchup should be considered here. Like I said, New Orleans does have a pretty strong defense. So, unless he gets more involved in the passing game, it's going to be hard for me to really move him up. But we'll see. It's only week 1. Like we said, don't overreact. We've said that multiple times. So just don't overreact here. Like I said, I think there will be people that will probably start sending Todd Gurley owners trades. And this is not the time to trade Todd Gurley. And again, it wasn't even that Todd Gurley was terrible last week. Like, he wasn't what you expected, or I would say, or what you would consider, a normal week for Todd Gurley. But I mean, still, I think he almost had 100 yards rushing, right? He had 97 yards rushing?
Yeah. Yep. 14 for 97.
Yeah, and people talk about him like he was just an absolute bum last week, which just wasn't the case. So I don't know. Hold on to Todd Gurley. Don't let him go. Anyways, so let's keep it moving. I have Dalvin Cook at 6. You have him at 11. That's another one where we're kind of, it's hard for me not to. Like, I definitely think as long as they're able to, the Vikings are going to be run first, pass second, and play strong defense. And so I think that, for Dalvin Cook, like, I think that you see him really kind of I think he really does have top 5 running, top 5 upside, on the season. I think that's there in the realm of possibilities. And this week against Green Bay, while Green Bay's defense did look pretty good, it is a road matchup, but I just think that they really love Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook is explosive, somebody who can bust off a 60-yard touchdown anytime he touches the ball. So it's hard for me not to in this matchup. And I think that you see him get more opportunities in the passing game as well here. And I think that also kind of, helps his floor and his overall ceiling as well. So for me, I think it's pretty easy to have Dalvin Cook where I've had him. I think I can make a debate on a couple of these guys maybe, but for me, I'm pretty happy with where I got him.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where I could see myself flip-flopping every time that I pull my rankings up. You know what I mean? But for right now, just a tougher matchup, like you said, on the road. Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw more. So it's just one of those ones where it was just kind of weird that he wasn't involved more in the passing game. I think he only had like 2 catches for 9 yards last week. So if he does get more involved, this ranking will definitely be too low, and I think he should be more involved. But it's just a tougher matchup, and I think that I'm going to go out on a limb. Maybe this is a hot take, but Kirk Cousins will have more than 10 pass attempts this week. Don't at me if I'm wrong, but that'll be my bold call for the week.
Ooh, that is spicy. Coming in hot. Nuclear take here. Kirk Cousins has more than 10 attempts. I like it. That's hot. That's very spicy there. That is I'm not sure if it's ghost pepper level hot, but anyways. So yeah, let's keep it moving, after this, I think we start to get more lockstep on where we have guys. Austin Eckler, I have him at 13, borderline RB1. You have him at 19. I do respect that Lions defense, but I mean, we did to see to take into consideration here, David Johnson had a pretty strong game against them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not like the Cardinals' offensive line is good, right? Like, and so it was pretty impressive to see the performance. He was pretty solid. I think he ended up with 25 fantasy points last week. So there's a lot to like here with Austin Eckler. We just talked about all their injuries. He's going to be utilized heavily as a pass catcher. It's hard for me not to really put him even possibly as an RB1 this week. Like, he has that range of outcomes in him. I think he gets utilized. I think he could easily see 10 targets. I think he gets probably maybe 15 carries, finds the end zone. So like, this one's pretty easy for me as having him high, but you have him at 19, almost outside of an RB2. Why so low?
This is definitely what I'm going to need to change. I had this in here before all this injury news came out. He'll definitely be on that RB1, RB2 kind of edge there, borderline. I mean, are they going to need to throw the way they did against against the Colts with being. I mean, it is a road game at Detroit. I just don't like if he's not getting the targets that he got. I could see Justin Jackson be more involved in the run game. Eckler clearly looked better than he did. He's definitely more explosive. I'm just not sure if they're going to have to air it out as much, and if they're not, I'm wondering if that kind of tilts in Justin Jackson's favor slightly. But still, at 19, that's still too low. This is one I'm going to be changing once we log off. Game script, son.
Yeah. So, anyways, I was saw something on Twitter and had to fix it. Anyways, yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's any more here that we just have to talk about. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Like, I have Joe Mixon. Like I said earlier, I have Joe Mixon ranked 12th. You have him ranked 58th. I'm assuming that's. I don't know. I think that maybe a misprice there, but. You know, I have Gio Bernard at a 40. You have him at a 25. I think he's a borderline RB, or he's a borderline flex. I think he's a borderline flex play with the thought process that Joe Mixon plays this week. So we've already talked about that, so we don't really need to get into that. So let's just go ahead and move on to wide receiver to the next group here. For me, I think looking at this, basically right now we both have Julio at 1. Devontae Adams, I have him at 3, you have him at 2. Odell Beckham is 3 among consistents. And I have him at 5, you have him at 3. Michael Thomas, 4, you have him at 5. DeAndre Hopkins, I have him at 2. You have him at 8. Are you just concerned with Jalen Ramsey there, real quickly on that one?
It just goes back to everything I was saying about why I had Watson low. I think Hopkins is still going to get his. I know he's beaten Ramsey before. It's not that I'm necessarily worried about. They're just like we were talking about with the quarterback rankings. There are just some other guys I like in spots better. But he's one of those ones where if I pull these up tomorrow, I can end up having him at 5.
I feel like you are you're hedging a lot here. I feel like that's what's happening. I need you to come at me with a strong take, okay? Punch me in the face with a take. Don't come at me with your hedges, okay? This is not what's going to be happening. By the way, special announcement in the middle of the podcast, just randomly. We are adding a new member to the Fantasy Authority podcast. She is fantastic, and she is a writer for the Fantasy Authority. You may know her as the only Jen Smith. And she is going to be writing for us. She's going to be on the podcast from here on out. So hopefully, that she will not live this hedge life that that Cody is giving me here. And with his, I could change that. No, I need a strong take. I need strong takes. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why you're right. All right, let's keep it moving. The next one. This is a shock. I feel like finally you've been waiting your entire life for this. You've been waiting for the moment. You've been riding this bandwagon out when everybody else has jumped off, left, abandoned it. You are still the only guy just sitting there chilling, just waiting. And then finally it got going again. It's at hyper speed right now. Sammy Watkins goes out and just dominates the Jaguars last week. Even when Tyreek Hill was in the game. Like, this wasn't just because Tyreek Hill got hurt. Right. He had 147 yards in the first quarter. Okay. And
yes, he did.
And now Tyreek Hill is out 4 to 6 weeks. Now the Kansas City Chiefs are traveling to the Oakland Raiders. I have him at wide receiver 6. You have him at wide receiver 12. I felt like that we would be lockstep here, that you would have him higher maybe even than me. This is like, and it's weird, right? Because this is kind of what happens in the fantasy community, especially like fantasy Twitter, is like there's a player and it's an obvious like smash play here. Like this is about as obvious as it gets with Sammy Watkins, and it going against Oakland. Like there's just nothing there to really like hold you back from that. He's likely going to see anywhere from 8 to 12 targets in this game. The only other passing, they have Travis Kelce with McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, Damian Williams out of the backfield. But like Sammy Watkins is going to get his targets in this game. Like he's going to get a lot of targets. Why are people trying to like talk people off the ledge of like, I don't know, let's pump the brakes here on Sammy Watkins, okay? And I'm like, what? Like, what are we doing here? Okay, we're talking about now the number one wide receiver in a Kansas City Chiefs offense. No, he should be moving up people's rankings and draft boards right now. I mean, he literally could be looks like he could be the number one wide receiver in this offense for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, you have him at 12, I have him at 6. Tell me why.
I think it's just because deep down in my heart, I'm afraid. Like I'm trying to enjoy this. I don't want to get it. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I've been burned by this man before. I've went crawling back every single time. So this is just me just wanting to give him space. I feel like I've been crowding him. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to let everybody else enjoy this. I'm going to take a step back, watch from afar. But for real though, I think Kelce, we see him get involved a little bit more this week with the middle of the field being open. Like I said, Abram is just out for the season. He landed himself on IR. Played through I think it was a torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff. He finished that game with on Monday. And then I think McCole Hardman with Tyreek Hill missing this time, I think they kind of have to get him acclimated to the offense and get him involved so they have him, you know what I mean, a little more game tested going forward. And this is just one of those ones I could see getting out of hand. But like I said, this is just me wanting to give Sammy his space. We've been talking recently. He said I've been a little clingy, so I'm letting everybody else crowd him right now.
Well, that's nice of you. That is very nice of you. It's good that you're doing that. We got a question in the chat. By the way, if anybody's watching this, just all you got to do is drop the questions in the chat, and they automatically pop up on the screen, and we answer them. So here we are. This is from No Name. Like that. That's original. I like that. He says, "Hey, just wondering who would drop Dion Lewis or Justin Jackson for Hardman? He has Watkins, half-point PPR. Would you drop either one of them for McCole Hardman?"
Yeah, I would drop Dion Lewis.
If you have, see, that's tough though because you have Sammy Watkins, right? Now I get it, Sammy Watkins has been injury prone, but you're starting Sammy Watkins anyway, correct? I mean, so my question would one be, can you tell me who your other wide receivers are, and do you need McCole Hardman? I'm surprised he's still available, to be honest. But a lot of people, low key, people have not been at like he has been somebody that like just like there's a huge groundswell out for right now, and I think it's because he didn't do anything. He was only targeted once. He did outsnap Demarcus Robinson 52-46, I believe it was. Demarcus Robinson received 2 targets to the one of McCole Hardman, and there is some things to be excited about there because I think he played 40% of his snaps or something like that was from the slot. So that's also something to really look for. Last week, once like he really got into the game, the Chiefs were kind of way ahead at that point, and they just kind of, especially with Patrick Mahomes nursing that sprained ankle, they were just kind of playing a lot of check down. They weren't, being as explosive they were in the first half. So I do really like McCole Hardman, but the problem for me is with this is that we know how valuable the running back position is, and I like Dion Lewis, and I'm not ready just to give up on him right now. So to me, it would really depend on what the rest of your roster looked like. If you were strong at running back and it didn't really matter, and you wanted to, take a flyer on McCole Hardman, because we do know that there's always the possibility, knock on wood, that Sammy Watkins, because something could happen to him, but through his career. So if you had to, yeah, I mean, for me, it probably at this point would probably be Justin Jackson for Hardman. Just because I know for 100% fact that Melvin Gordon is going to be back by week 7 or 8. And it's kind of like you're flipping the hourglass, so to speak, on that backfield because it's starting to come down. It's like in The Wizard of Oz whenever Dorothy's stuck in the castle, and they're all waiting and the time is coming down and she flips the hourglass, everything's going on, until, So anyways, this kind of what's like. Melvin Gordon's coming back. The Wicked Witch of the West is coming back. And is where I'm going with this. And so So anyways, so like that's my problem with it is that like for me, like it's almost we'll talk about it. We'll talk about Austin Eckler a little bit later. We'll talk about it. I don't want to I don't want to blow my load too early on that one. So anyways, let's keep it moving. Oh, he did follow it up. He says I have Cooks, Ridley, Watkins, and Curtis Samuel, and then at running backs he has David Johnson, Mark Ingram, McCoy, Tevin Coleman. Holy hell, this guy's stacked.
Yeah, I mean, I would have with his running backs, I would still have, even with Watkins, I wouldn't have an issue with dropping Dion Lewis, because the ceiling is going to be so much higher with Hardman than it is with Dion Lewis. And we actually saw Hunter Henry. We actually saw Derrick Henry catch a football that he took for a 75-yard touchdown, I think. So.
Right.
I mean, he's still not going to be super involved in the passing game, but for me, like if you're able to do something like that, if you do have the running back depth, which he does have, I wouldn't hesitate to drop Lewis for Hardman.
Yeah. Now that I see this whole and see that's why context matters, boys and girls. Now that I see this, yeah, I probably wouldn't have any issue. Whether it's Justin Jackson or Dion Lewis, maybe Dion Lewis is the smarter one right now, because if something were to happen to Austin Eckler, that Justin Jackson would be, at least for the time being, would be just a smash play versus Dion Lewis. Even if something happened to Derrick Henry, I don't think he takes over as like the lead back. He's not going to be getting 20 touches a game.
Right.
So, yeah, I if you wanted to drop Dion Lewis, I think you could definitely do that for McCole Hardman here in this situation. So, anyways, thanks for the question. No name. Anybody else? If we're always available, especially during these shows, these live streams, to answer any question that we get. So let's keep this one moving. Let's get. We just talked about the old slamming Sammy Watkins. We got that out of the way. Let's have a conversation now about the old Stephon Diggs here. Can you tell me why that you have him as a wide receiver 3 this week, and I have him as a 15? Which I'm at 15, you have him at 26. Why did you have him as a wide receiver 3?
Matchup is part of it, and dude, if he's, until I see him completely healthy, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but whenever he pops up on the injury report, he is not the same player. Green Bay's corners are solid, and like I said, it's more about him not being fully healthy. That's just something that kind of just scares me off of him a little bit. The Vikings, we've been talking about it a couple of times already on the podcast. They're going to be a run-first offense. That's going to obviously keep the ball out of Stephon Diggs' hand until I know that he's completely healthy. I'm going to have him a little lower like this.
Hashtag hedge life. So for me,
there was no hedge there. I didn't say I was moving him up. I said until he's healthy, until I see him healthy, he's going to stay down here.
But see, he is healthy though, because he's been removed off the injury report. He's not even listed this week on the injury report.
We'll see about that.
Oh, here we go. Well, once I see that, I may have to move him up my rankings a little bit, but anyway, so yeah, so all right, let's keep it moving through the wide receivers. I don't know if there's anything else we're like egregious on. Well, no, excuse me. Yes, there was. See, I almost missed it. Let's have a conversation about Tyrell Williams. You have him as a wide receiver 41, right? You do realize he's their number 1 wide receiver, and they're playing the Chiefs, who are hashtag not good, bad at football. And I have him at wide receiver 20. Like, we have a 21 place difference here on this. So he comes in at wide receiver 29 because you are, as Ryan Williams would say, egregiously low on Tyrell Williams this week. So I want you to tell me why so low on Tyrell, the Gazelle.
Just not fully buying into Derek Carr and that offense just yet. That's really all it is. I mean, he is the de facto number 1. KC's run defense is not good. I think they're going to want to play a little ball control. get Josh Jacobs more involved. And I'm not fully bought in. It wouldn't surprise me if I am completely wrong on this one, but I'm not fully buying in just yet.
You should be, because the dude is probably going to smash. We just saw Chris Conley have 97 yards and a touchdown. DJ Shark with over 100 yards and a touchdown. Okay,
You watch your tongue, Wish, when you're talking about Chris Conley like that.
I'm just saying. Okay, Tyrell Williams is a lock as a wide receiver too. Just an absolute stone cold lock. Who else is going to do it? We have not seen anybody any. Okay, so the Chiefs have not shown the ability to stop anybody right now. Okay, they let, like I said, Gardner Minshew come out and just carve them up. Right? It's just so happened the Chiefs' offense is so much better and it was able to. Not that Minshew was perfect. I think he threw a couple interceptions, one that we didn't get to see, because I'm pretty sure Miles Jack went out and lit the truck up for CBS, and so that's why the game went off the air. But regardless of that, actually, perfect segue. We have a question, another one. WebDude737 says, do I play Tyrell Williams or Larry Fitzgerald?
Tyrell
Williams. Can I ask you a question then? Can I ask you a question?
I suppose.
Why do you have Larry Fitzgerald then 32nd?
Because everything can't be perfect, Kev. Okay.
Anyway,
that's why.
No, I wanted you to say that you're going to move Tyrell Williams up your rankings, because I put together such a strong take.
Well, I guess I would just follow with my hashtag hedge life. So ask and you shall receive.
All right. Anyways, it's 100%. You picked the correct answer. If we could play some sounds here, that was 100% the correct answer. It's Tyrell Williams.
Editing?
Yes, this is just way too good of a spot for him. I think 100 yards and a touchdown is easy in the realm of possibilities. I like Larry Fitzgerald. I was one of the few on the preseason podcast that we did that was really high on Larry Fitzgerald. We saw it this past week. The dude still got it. Like, he's still a baller. It's just this is a much tougher matchup for them going to Baltimore. As much as I like this air raid offense, and I think that it's going to end up being something that we look at, and I think that it's going to be profitable for DFS, and it's going to be profitable on a weekly basis. But this isn't the week that I would want to really target the Cardinals. And so, like, if I have these two options, I would want to play Tyrell Williams in a much better matchup at home, and what's likely going to be a very high scoring offense or a very high scoring game. So, like, for me, I just think this is just a much easier play.
Yep.
Okay.
And I still think with Arizona, I'm not ready yet to say that it's always going to be Larry. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's still going to be a lot of that ball being spread around. And you touched on the matchup. It just wouldn't surprise me if Larry isn't the leader in terms of production for another 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think Tyrell Williams is easy play. Like I said, I have wide receiver 20, you have him at 41. So thank you for the question, WebDude737. Any more questions? You just drop them in the chat, and we'll get to them. So let's keep it moving from there. I think after that, I think we were all pretty much kind of lockstep on where there's some differences, but I don't think anything that's too. Oh, wait, no, we do have one more. Sorry, I missed it. Terry McLaurin. I have him at wide receiver 36. You have him at 59. Am I too high on him? Am I buying too much into the hype of the week 1 performance?
I mean, possibly, but who else do they have? You know what I mean? Like, that's the issue there. I don't think that's egregiously high or anything. Again, it's just another spot. Like, I'm not buying into Case Keenum throwing 300 yards again. Like, that was just one of those things where Philly came out, probably weren't probably weren't taking Washington too seriously to take a little stroll down narrative street here. Dallas's defense is probably in total better than what Philly's is. We will not see another 300-yard game out of Case Keenum the rest of the year. But who else do they have? Is it going to be Vernon Davis, Kelvin Harmon, another rookie? I think he went 2 for 31. I don't know who else they have, but I think this becomes so. We saw Gruden say that Adrian Peterson wouldn't be active unless they were going to go in the I formation and run it 50 times a game. Well, with the Darius Geis injury, Adrian Peterson has already been named the starter. So maybe we see the I formation and 50 rushes a game.
Yes, there's going to be some game script there to see how this really plays out. I just think, like you said, I think that opportunity is going to be there. I think it's easy to see 10 targets. I mean, he really played very, very well. And there's been a lot of talk about that all preseason about how well he's played. And he came out and that's a good Philadelphia defense. He really just took the town. Like, I mean, he roasted that secondary last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a tougher matchup. I think Dallas's defenses might be a little bit better, especially their secondary. But regardless, right. I think that he's somebody that I would have strong interest. I believe he played 93% of the snaps. That's exactly what you're looking for. It's not, like I said, it's not the ideal matchup, but I do think that this is one that he can exploit. So I really like him, and he's somebody that I would have been targeting heavily, through waivers this week. And I think he's somebody that we're going to be talking about that, on a weekly basis of kind of where you're playing him and everything else. So, I just really like him. I can understand too having him where you have him. That's maybe I'm a little bit overzealous on him, and once you start to get past some of these guys, they're all kind of very mixed together, and you could probably have one at 50, but and one at 40, and there's really not a huge difference to you there. But regardless, I just think that all the possibilities, the opportunity, the likely game script of them being behind, having to throw the ball a ton, is where I come in on him, and I think that's why he's he's kind of a borderline wide receiver 3 for me.
He has 4.3 speed. All it takes is one. You know what I mean? If he takes one catch to the house for 30, 40, 45 yards, he's going to easily find himself in that wheelhouse. You were talking about snap percentages. Trey Quinn had 97% of the offensive snaps. McLaurin 92.5, and then the next closest was Paul Richardson at 77.6. So definitely seems like McLaurin has that role locked up, and Trey Quinn is another Jamison Crowder. Kind of guy who's going to go 10 for 40 yards.
Yeah, I like Trey Quinn as well. It's kind of like a deeper league, at least 12 team. But I definitely think Trey Quinn is another guy that has some, at least I have some interest in this year. We saw him have a touchdown. I think it wasn't very impressive, the yardage totals or anything like that, but I know he caught a touchdown. So he's somebody that should be on people's radars as well, and I don't think is. But anyways, before we move on to tight end, we got another question. Is it time to promote Michael Gallup from the bench? I could put him at flex, or should I put in Devin Singletary, PPR league?
Gallup all day. He's someone I was really high on during this offseason, and then Kellen Moore came out and showed us what a modern offense for Dallas can look like. Singletary, I really liked him coming in as a rookie, but Frank Gore is still there. We saw, I think Singletary did all. He didn't have a single touch until I think it was halfway through the third quarter or something like that. So that's just something where Frank Gore is still going to be involved. Singletary could pop off and have some an explosive play where he racks up some points for you, but give me Gallup pretty easily there. Promote him web dude.
Yeah, it's the thing is, I will say this with the Dallas offense is I wonder if, like, because we knew last week Zeke was going to be limited because of him coming back from getting acclimated. He sat out all of the offseason programs, sat out training camp, sat out preseason, and we knew he wasn't going to play very much, which he didn't. And was that the reason they decided to throw the ball as much as they did? And are we going to see them go back to more of a run-first offense? I don't think they were. I was actually pretty impressed with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he did a lot of unique things. So I'm hoping that they continue to throw the ball, because if they do, I mean, Michael Gallup becomes a very, very interesting wide receiver 3, has some wide receiver 2 appeal depending on certain weeks. So I would too. I think Gallup is a safer play right now until we get more of more of an idea of how Devin Singletary is going to be utilized. Though I will say Singletary's output was pretty solid, and I think that we see the upside there with him too. So he's somebody that I definitely want to keep, but at least just for this 1 week in terms of matchups, I think I would just rather play Michael Gallup as well. All right, so let's keep it moving here. Let's move on to the tight end position. We'll wrap this thing up, so we can move on to some one more topic. Tight end's not anything really crazy. We're pretty much similar as we move through it. But there are a couple that I did want to discuss. One being Darren Waller. I believe I'm a little higher on him. No, never mind. I thought I was. I take that back. We both have him at 6. Anyways, well, let's talk about Mark Andrews then. I have Mark Andrews at 8. You have him at 14. I think that he exploded last week for that 127 yards and a touchdown. We know he is super explosive. We saw it last year. He did the same. He did very similar things last year. Is he somebody that you're becoming more interested in as a weekly, somebody that you feel comfortable starting every week, or is he gonna have to show you more again? Or was that last week? Because it's hard, right? You sit there and you see the Dolphins. They went out. The Ravens went out and just embarrassed. I mean, just demoralized, if you will, the Miami Dolphins last week. And so some of this is a little overhyped, right? But at the same time, we liked Mark Andrews all offseason, and so I wasn't surprised when Mark Andrews went out and did what he did, right? So I have him at 8. You have him at 14. Why? What about Greg Olsen, Vance McDonald, David Njoku? Do you like more than Mark Andrews this week?
With Andrews, I'm same thing with Lamar Jackson. I'm just waiting to see if we can count on that volume. We saw Andrews produce on 2-3 targets last year, so it's definitely still in his wheelhouse. But I'm just kind of I want to wait, see what kind of volume he gets. I mean, the 8 targets he had to be more than he had in 3 or 4 games combined. At some points of the season last year. So Hayden Hurst was still involved. Obviously, Marquise Hollywood. It's just wanting to see the volume be there for more than 1 week. But yeah, he's definitely someone who by year's end is probably going to be in top 5 or 6 every single week. I think the volume for Delaney will be there more consistently. Njoku, I have 1 spot higher. That has more to do with New York's linebacker core than anything else. We saw, I think it's just going to be for Cleveland anyway, coming out super aggressive compared to what happened last week. And I mean, those are all ones in there that you put in a hat, you grab one, and oh, okay, I'm starting Greg Olsen. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm streaming a tight end or if I'm picking somebody up, Mark Andrews was definitely on my list of players that I wanted to add. I think right there with TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson was super impressive in his rookie debut. Usually, we kind of, it's kind of gotten, we say it every week, right? Or every year, that's why you don't target and redraft rookie tight ends. But maybe he's an outlier here, and in an offense that doesn't have a whole lot outside of Kenny Galladay and whatever Marvin Jones has left, and then old man Danny Amendola. I mean, he really has the opportunity to carve out a pretty sizable target share in this offense, depending on if they become a little bit more pass heavy than what we saw last year. So, I mean, overall, I get it, and I don't really have anything. I don't have anything against it. Like I said, I just think Mark Andrews. He just has that ability, and like I said, I love the matchup here. And so for me, I mean, we just saw again what Arizona had a lot of troubles against TJ Hawkinson. I mean, TJ Hawkinson kind of had his way last week. So for me, I just like Mark Andrews, and I think that he's somebody like. If you were sitting there and both of these were available this week, which one would you have rather had, Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson? And redraft.
Well, if I was drafting this week.
No, because both of them were widely available this week on waivers.
Going
last week. Which one would have been the one you would have targeted?
It would have been Andrews. Like I wouldn't have. If you would have told me that was going to happen, like you could have been like, "Hey, man, I saw week 1, like Hawkinson's going to have over 100 yards and a touchdown." They're like, "I don't believe you. You're trying to trick me. There's no way Matt Patricia is letting him do anything other than block and maybe sneak out on a play action pass every once in a while." So it definitely would have been Mark Andrews. But Hawkinson balled.
Yeah. I think I probably would have too. I probably would have Mark Andrews. I think he has a better weekly. Something you can count a little bit more. Something probably has a better floor than what Hawkinson does. But it really wouldn't surprise me by the end of the year we're not talking about TJ Hawkinson as a top 5 or 6 tight end by the end of the year. I think that's in the range of his outcomes. Like that dude's a beast. He's a baller.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess we should have seen like Matt Patricia wants him to be his Gronkowski. Like maybe we should have seen that narrative coming. But I would have won Andrews. He was one of my favorite late round targets for tight end as it was. So even with hindsight, I would have won Andrews.
Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about in our biggest discrepancies this week. You can go check this out on the website, thefantasyauthority.com. Just go to fantasyauthority.com. It's right there on the homepage, front homepage. If not, I mean, you could go to fantasyauthority.com /redraft/weekly fantasy football rankings, and you will find these here. So let's go ahead and let's jump into the last segment we want to talk about tonight so we can get everybody out of here, and that is some buy-sell targets. It is week 1, so take that with a grain of salt. I would rather be doing more buying than selling at this point, or aggressively anyways, because I just don't think that we know enough to be able to truly, to really sell people. Anyways, so for me, the 2 players I'm buying this week is Aaron Jones and David Montgomery. Funny they played in the same game, but both of them were not. Definitely, especially Aaron Jones, you did not really get what you thought we were going to get from him. He lost. It really looked like a full-on timeshare there with. Why am I forgetting his name?
Jamal.
Yeah, Jamal Williams. Anyways, so there is something there to be nervous about, right, in this offense. There's something there to be we're hesitant, where I think where fantasy owners might be like, oh man, what did I get myself into here? Because he really didn't get much opportunities. But what I will say against that stout Bears front 7 is that he definitely looked like the best running back on that team, right? And they talked about it during the broadcast, and there's some things you can take away from broadcast among the NFL, because these broadcasters get exclusive time with these coaching staff, and they really start talking, get them to talk about some things. And I remember Chris Collins were talking about it, saying that the Packers want to be more run heavy this year, which was somewhat surprising considering, they have Aaron fucking Rodgers on that offense. So Regardless, I think Aaron Jones bounces back. I think Aaron Jones is fine. And so if you could buy him from somebody, even if it's not like a significant discount for him, and maybe even you wait until after this week, because this could be a tough matchup for him going against Minnesota, and maybe the Packers decide to throw the ball more than run. But if he struggles again this week, I would be 100% be buying Aaron Jones, because he's far and away the best running back in this backfield. And the same goes with David Montgomery. It was a complete timeshare. I think anybody with a working set of eyes could see that David Montgomery is the best running back they have in that backfield. And I think he's somebody else that, like, if people drafted him with the expectation that he was just going to be this beast and he was going to get, 50, 60% of the touches, that people didn't get that from him this past week. So you get people who are down upon that. I mean, attacking recency bias in fantasy football is such an edge. And we talk about it every year, but it truly is. Like, you could base your watch off a lot of people's reaction to things off that 1 week. And so, like, trying to target players like that is something that I would want to do. And then my one sell would be, actually, go ahead and tell me who your buy is this week, and then we'll go to sell.
Yeah, so my buy, I'm going to stick with running backs as well, and I'm going to go Sony Michel here for my buy. What we should be, quote unquote, chasing when it comes to running backs is we want volume. Sony had it last week. He had, I think, twice as many rushes as the next closest Patriots running back. I think Sony had 15 and Burkhead had 8, I believe. He just didn't have the production to show for it. So if you can find someone who is doubting Sony, it's the Patriots, committee, yada, yada, yada. The numbers just weren't there. Pittsburgh, as bad as their secondary is, they've had a solid run defense for the past several years. And especially if you can get him this week going up against the exhibition team, Miami Dolphins, I would definitely do that. I would immediately throw him into your starting lineup. Like Kevin said, you don't want to overreact. So like the sells here for me are gonna, if you get somebody to overpay, do that kind of thing. So my sell is going to be Marquise Hollywood Brown. Kev, I think you brought it up on the waiver show. He only played 12 snaps. It was less than 15, 14 snaps like that. He did not play a lot of snaps. He was targeted on 5 of those. Now, granted, that was because of the injury, working in, yada, yada. I get it. But if you can get someone to overpay for Hollywood and you can get yourself a, quote unquote, more secure, more consistent receiver, and you can get someone who's buying in on all this hype, I would do that. But again, it's week 1. Don't overreact. But if you can get somebody to overpay for Hollywood, I would do that. Who's your sell?
That's kind of where I would be standing with things too, is trying to find players or identify players that have really outliers type of weeks that would and because I don't think Hollywood Brown projects as somebody that you're going to look at and say, okay, by the end of the year he's going to have 140, 150 targets. Like, I don't think that's in the range of outcomes. He's going to have to live off efficiency, and I do not believe that efficiency is going to be as crazy as it was last week. It was just an awful matchup against the Dolphins, and he's not going to get that again. And so, this is probably the best time to sell. Even if you don't get some haul back for him, even if it's just a marginal upgrade somewhere, I think it's a smart move. Even to throw him in as a package deal for something else, then I think that's a good move. For me, it's Austin Eckler, and this one's tough because we're still really early. We still have probably at least 7 weeks of being able to utilize him, and even once Melvin Gordon comes back, that he still has a role, but I don't know if his value could be any higher right now than what it is. And it really depends on what you could get. If you could get a pretty sizable haul for him, let's say you moved him for Aaron Jones and I don't know, a couple wide receivers like a Chris Godwin, or maybe that's giving up too much, or maybe that's asking too much there on that move. But, something like that, where you're getting a solid wide receiver 2 or a Tyler Boyd, for example, and moving Austin Eckler who, dominated last week, who's likely going to have another big week this week, and kind of moving on from that, understanding that when Melvin Gordon comes back, he's likely going to at least get, I would say, I think he probably fills back in. I would think the Chargers would just ride him, knowing that this is probably his last year with the team, and trying to get, capitalize as much as you can off the rest of the year with him. And so like that, I think that should be in people's back of people's minds. And the closer you get to Melvin Gordon coming back, his value drops.
Yep.
Unless we get something where the Chargers come out and say, hey, even when Melvin Gordon comes back, he's not going to be the starter in this offense anymore. Then that's about the only way. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I wouldn't anticipate that happening. So for me, that's why I think Austin Eckler, especially now and early, where you kind of get him or move him at top of his value.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick tip to make all of your trade negotiations a lot more likely to be successful. Look for the team of, say you're trying to unload Eckler, look for the team that's weak at running back. You know what I mean? Kind of like play on that a little bit. Look for the team that's weak at running back, and maybe they have, or one of our targets who, kind of disappointed last week. And, here's Eckler, give me, David Montgomery and something. Maybe they have an extra tight end and Henry just got hurt. That's the way that you guys should be looking at your potential trade partners. Like, don't go to the team that, started off their draft with 3 or 4 running backs out of their first 5 or 6 picks. Prey on the ones that are weak. It's after week 1. People are going to be overreacting anyway. So go out and take advantage of that.
No, I agree. I think that's a really good point. So other than that, I think that's the last thing we had to talk about this week. So you got any final thoughts heading into week 2?
No, just hit us up on Twitter. Look for the link for the Slack chat. Jump in there. Got channels for all different things, for redraft, for DFS, for Dynasty. Always talking in there, always active. So that's that'd be my parting shot.
No, I 100% agree. The Slack channel is such a unique benefit, and it's free to be able to get access just to a football community of people, or fantasy football community, and just people that are sitting there talking football that you can ask questions to, have a sounding board, where no one's gonna degrade you for your questions or anything like that, or just flat out ignore you. That'll never happen. One of us will always answer, or the entire community will. So I highly recommend our Slack channel. It's free. All you got to do is, there's links all over the place. If not, reach out to me on Twitter at FantasyWrath13, and I'll get you in there immediately. So I just want to, we're still trying to build that thing along with our YouTube channel, try to really build it up and do some more fun things. We got a lot of ideas on stuff that we want to do. Mainly our goal every week is just to, help out the listener, help out help anybody out as we possibly can. So for that, like I said, if you could please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, leave us a rate and review on iTunes. We'd greatly appreciate that. I want to see everybody's, have a strong week this week. Like I said, jump into our Slack. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great week, and we out.